Performance from Barcelona, a 5-2 victory over Real Madrid, meaning they've scored 9 goals against their arch rivals, of course, in their last 2 meetings. Taking a look at the Spanish newspapers, and inevitably it's all about Barcelona, of course, being crowned champions, the first bit of silverware for Hansi Flick since taking over at Barca. So much to discuss from this. Let's welcome in, shall we? Melchiot joins us, as does Frank Leboeuf, but we'll kick things off with Sid Lowe in Spain. Sid, when these sort of things traditionally happen, maybe it's laziness, maybe it's just brilliant journalism from me, I'll ask you, who's the person who's getting blamed the most for this result? I imagine on this occasion, everyone's getting it, aren't they?
That is top-class journalism from you, Dan. Yeah, as you can imagine, the focus has been spread wide. But I think in terms of the kind of the post-game analysis, immediately after the game, it gets spread a little bit more. And I think what happens is that people come together in their analyses the following day. As you can probably imagine, there's a big question mark about the strength of the squad for Real Madrid, and in particular, the fact that of the back four yesterday, 2 of them are actually midfielders, with Lucas Vázquez and Tchouaméni, of course. The other focus has been on Carlo Ancelotti and whether or not he's been getting it wrong this season. Because bear in mind, if you look at Real Madrid's performances while they've been reasonably good in the last few weeks, each time they've had a really big game, they haven't really responded. They were beaten and dominated by Liverpool. They've been beaten twice by Barcelona. They were beaten by AC Milan. They had to come back from 2 goals down in the first half against Dortmund. They were beaten away in Bilbao. And so I think there is a sense that there is something missing from Real Madrid, and that it's not just about last night, but all of that, of course, in the context of a very, very good performance from Barcelona.
Yeah, and of course we'll give Barcelona its due later on in the show, Stevie, but you look at this performance from Real Madrid, and it was schoolboyish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from a defensive point of view, absolutely and utterly schoolboyish. I think you've got to look at, we always talk about starting from the back, but most teams these days, the best teams, start at the front, and there is no help on the defensive side from that front 3. Rodrigo, probably out of the 3 of them, was the one that tries to come back the most. But the problem is, he has no instinct for danger, and he ends up running back when it's too late. And of course, if you get through the middle, I mean, Sid said 2 of the 4 aren't defenders. I'm sorry. In my opinion, Mendy is nowhere near a top-class defender. So when teams as good as Barcelona, with the quality they have going forward, get a back 3 like that, then you shouldn't be surprised that you're losing goals. So the sooner they figure out the back 4 in particular, the sooner they'll start competing with the best teams.
But of course, a lack of personnel in the tower. We know Dali Alba is still on his way back, and it's what Carlo Ancelotti was asked, obviously, inevitably, about his defence after the game. This is what the Real Madrid manager had to say about conceding 5. We have to look at the reality. We didn't defend well. We tried to press high and defend with a low block. They scored the goals easily, and we didn't work collectively or individually. Frank, it is interesting when you look at this, and Barcelona, as well as they finished, and obviously we'll talk about them later, they did make it look so easy against this Real Madrid defence.
Yes, because, again, and Stevie alluded it, they work together. They work together defensively, offensively. They worked as a team, which is the contrary with Real Madrid. So, yeah, you can spot on, some players who try to do well. Mbappe offensively did well. But again, as Stevie mentioned, the 4 at front, because Bellingham is included in it, didn't work defensively. On top of having the problem defensively, they're not helped by the forward players, and that's the problem. They are back into reality, and Ancelotti said that. He made miracle with the players last season, with all injury that he had, but at the end of the day, this season, they go back to reality. On the other hand, I'm very impressed with Barcelona, because we can see that they are very inexperienced players, but they have the guts, they have the stamina, they want to do well, they want to be spot on. I mean, the first goal from Lamine Yamal is like easy. I'm going to show you. He's like 17 years old. I mean, the guy looked like I have 200, 300 games behind me and in my pocket, and I know exactly what I'm going to do against Real Madrid. It was too easy.
The amazing thing for me with this, certainly this Real Madrid performance, is you've seen it before against Barcelona at the Bernabeu. You think that they'd get those adjustments. And while, we can go through Real Madrid, their players individually, nobody had a great game. on the sidelines, you have who I believe is one of the top 2 coaches in world football. And I thought Carlo Ancelotti got it desperately wrong. Now, even with the opening goal scored by Real Madrid, you see the threat of Kylian Mbappe and Vinny Jr. running in behind a back four, a Barcelona back four that we saw in that first leg, likes to press high. So I don't understand Carlo Ancelotti setting up to press Barcelona high up the park. Let the game be stretched. So for me, and again, and I'm sure we'll go through individuals, but I thought Carlo Ancelotti, and again, for my money, one of the top 2 coaches in world football, couldn't have got this more wrong on the day.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Sid, isn't it? Inevitably, questions are going to be asked of Ancelotti, which is strange, obviously, considering what he's achieved and the fact they're sitting, second in La Liga. But it's the fact that almost it was doing exactly the same against the same opposition and hoping for a different result.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? There's a couple of things as well to pick up on. And Ancelotti talking about pressing high but playing with a low block. Well, those two things don't normally go hand in hand. You know, if your defence is low and you're pressing high, you're creating a huge gap in the middle of the pitch. In particular, as something Frank mentioned, of course, you're talking about a midfield that's totally exposed because you've got 3 forwards plus Bellingham, who's there almost as a forward. So you've got 2 midfielders trying to cover a huge amount of space on their own. And some of those problems happened earlier in the season, and it seemed like Real Madrid had dealt with them. If nothing else, at least because they were aware of them. They didn't need to do a huge amount more than just be aware of them and have that degree of solidarity and that degree of kind of teamwork that they hadn't had earlier in the season. And it felt like they got there, but this time they really didn't. Now, obviously, there are problems when you look at the back four as a back four, but when you look at it collectively, as Stevie was mentioning, you don't have the pressure at the top of the pitch. The back four isn't playing particularly well, and the midfield is really and truly just a 2, and neither of those 2 are naturally a deep-lying defensive midfielder or even a deep-lying playmaking midfielder. And so they don't have that positional midfielder, which, of course, you look at the Barcelona team, and it feels like their entire midfield knows where to be positionally. Now, they have other flaws, of course, but positionally, they're so much stronger.
He started very well, and he had nothing to complain about. Well, we always can complain about the fact that he doesn't really defend, even if he tried to force hard. I think it's not natural for him. But what he brings offensively, every time he had the ball yesterday, was something important and should have been, and has been underlined. But it's not enough. It's not enough because, again, we can see that the top team in Europe, everybody works hard. And you can be a star, you have to make sure you defend and you attack. It's like, I was thinking about when I was watching the game, what would be my part of not doing if I was a defender and not attacking, not bringing the man over, and what would be my not working hard segment? That's what we do as defenders or midfielder. We try to bring something else. We have our function, but we have something above our function. And forward players have the tendency, some of them, to just do what they have to do, meaning playing when they have the ball. And that's where Mbappe still have to work. Even if he had a good game yesterday, for me, it's still not enough because I know that he can bring something. And they are so much unbalanced because if Vini is not good, if Bellingham is not good, on top of Rodrigo, that's becoming a big and huge issue for Real Madrid.
Sid, you watch this game and you sit back and you think, how the heck did Barcelona lose at home against Las Palmas and Leganés?
Well, bear in mind they lost at home 3 games in a row, didn't they? Las Palmas, Leganés and Atletico Madrid. An extraordinarily bad run. That lead that they had after the Clásico is completely gone. They're now trailing both Atletico and Real Madrid in La Liga. I think the answer to that question is partly actually what Frank's saying about Real Madrid. That sense of the kind of the work rate, the commitment, the sense that you have to fight for every single ball in every game. And I think that at some subconscious level, perhaps not entirely consciously, but at some subconscious level, I think when Barcelona got to the Clásico and beat Real Madrid, I think there was a decompression. I think there was a sense of, right, we've done the hard bit now, we're there. And I actually think that didn't do them any favours. They then went and lost to Real Sociedad. Then they had those 3 defeats at home. They only won 1 of the last 7 games going into the final weekend of the year, of the calendar year, and they kind of slipped away from it. I think there is probably a tactical element as well, which is, of course, one of the things that this Barcelona team is doing is having that incision to run beyond teams into space, which isn't traditionally a quality that we associate with Barcelona. So they can become really, really good at being incisive and killing you on the break, as we saw, for example, from a Real Madrid corner in yesterday's game.
I don't think we saw this coming, did we, Shaka? At the start of the season, so much speculation about Williams coming in to replace him after being hot at the Euros. But the response you've got from Rafinha is exactly what you want, isn't it?
It's been incredible to witness, in all honesty. And I know you're right. I don't think anybody saw this coming, not just because of speculation, but just because you felt that maybe it wasn't a great fit with Rafinha and Barcelona, and then all of a sudden Hansi Flick comes in, this change of style, this pace that Barcelona are able to employ in behind defences, and Rafinha is key to that. Not only his pace. I don't mean to make him sound like a one-trick pony here. Rafinha technically has been as good as anybody we've seen for Barcelona for quite some time. And that, again, is speaking to a player that seemed almost surplus to requirements a few months ago.
Right, Steve, you're Hansi Flick. You've been here, you've done that. You won at the Bernabeu, and then everything went horribly wrong. How do you stop that happening again here?
Well, listen, it's about... It really mostly is about the players, because I don't think Hansi Flick's message from the start of the season to now will have been any real down to the players, in my opinion. If there was one thing I would suggest Hansi Flick does, is he probably sits a little deeper and doesn't go squeezing people, because you can see what they can do with a bit of time and space. You know, Shaka's talking about Real Madrid try to go high. They should have done the opposite. I think if Barcelona do that, they'll end up scoring way more goals. Just don't go so high. Encourage the opposition to come forward a little bit. And that way, when you don't have the ball, you're a little more solid, because they've lost too many goals this last period. But then you can still have that space to run into.
And when he thinks about that too, and this kind of amazed me, Robert Lewandowski dropping deep. For the opening goal, the ball into Lamine Yamal. I can't tell you last time I've seen Lewandowski drop that deep, back to goal, drawing centre-backs with him and waiting for those runners to come in behind. Lewandowski has made a career of playing on the shoulders of centre-backs. Now all of a sudden he's dropping deep and inviting those runs in behind from Rafinha, from Lamine Yamal.
Coming together and making sure the youngsters don't get complacent about, right, here we go, this is the path that we're on. We don't want to do what we've done over the last couple of months and repeat ourselves.
Yeah, because, you know, Hansi Flick said after the game as well, I got a young side, and sometimes we got that, you know, the performance go great and then it goes steady for a long time. And he wants to walk away from that. And that situation is very important, because, what is it, the middle of the park is like early 20s for them. So if you play a middle of the park like that, and the way they handled it was beautiful, you know, like Caicedo and Pedri, the way they played. And then what Shaka just said, the way Lewandowski, just the way he dropped, even when some of the midfielders, like let's say they play three in a line, he could drop in and make the other two squeeze in. And that's what happened, because that's how Rafinha scored the header, and that's how Yamal scored that goal, that, what was it, the 1-1? The way he tracked it. But you could see the movement was already planned. It wasn't like something that happens in the game out of nothing. It was a plan. Like, he drops short, and then the rest starts running quickly. And I think he just have to make more, how you say it, automatic stuff, in the sense of, like, it should be, the discipline should be there all the time, and not just for one-off games, or, I mean, not one-off, but just for this big game. And that is very important for Flick.
Just one last thing on this tie, Sid. Will this be a catalyst for Real Madrid to do something in the transfer window?
Yeah, well, inevitably, that's part of the reaction to this game, is that this is something now that maybe pushes them towards making a decision that they didn't want to make. Or more to the point, they've made the decision that they didn't want to go into the window. They want to do their big business in the summer. Of course, they would like that to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. They would like that to be Davies as well. But they don't really want to do it now, partly because they've got to wait for those players. Now, Ancelotti has asked the club, and done it more than once, and said that he would like some players brought in. The club has resisted it. This is the kind of game, as you say, that kind of pushes you a little bit, that forces your hand a little bit. And while Real Madrid generally try and avoid winter signings as often as they possibly can, they try really hard not to be pushed into it. Even when they feel like that they could probably do with it, they would rather wait normally. I wouldn't be that surprised if they tried to find themselves a short-term solution at either centre-back or right-back between now and the end of January.
One last thing on all of this, which you may have missed with everything. Go on, Frank. Go on, Frank.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Now, I just want to say that it's very strange because we've been talking for 20 minutes that the fact that Real Madrid needs to reinforce their defense, and with the recruitment that we are talking about is Davis, who is a very much forward fullback, and TAA with the same on the other side, where defensively they're not at their top, and so I don't see where they want to go with that. They really have to change their way of thinking if they want to reinforce their defense. I don't think